What's good? It is Sam, and I have an awesome video for you tonight where we're going to talk about MSNBC and what they're doing, and where that is going, and the impact that might or could potentially have going forward. Now, with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you that are returning, it's good to freaking see you. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. So, there's been all this drama around MSNBC leaving Andrew Yang off of the candidates. So these are, this was from 8 minutes ago, and this is the announced Democratic 2020 presidential candidates, and they just didn't include Andrew Yang's name up here, even though he's polling. And this is like not my polling data, which if you want to check out my polling data, way more accurate in my opinion than actual polling data. But even just the old school legacy way of polling, Andrew Yang is in above 3%, I think. So that means that his name would be up there, and a lot of these other people wouldn't be up there. So it was perfectly left out there. But then you're like, well, maybe that was just a mistake, right? Because like, what if the person was just didn't know, right? Well, again, in a different area, we have the percentages is how these people are polling according to some survey or something. And again, he's left out of there, even though he's polling higher than the bottom three candidates. Interesting, right? Maybe it's just a mistake again. Maybe they just didn't have room, or I don't know. I was trying to help him out, but it seems pretty blatant to me. Because there's actually in psychology there's a bias. It's called the establishment bias, I think it is. You can Google it. The establishment bias kind of keeps together what is already there. Kind of think of like the old boys club type of idea, but in terms of the establishment, where anything outside of the establishment is not viewed as like credible at all because it's coming from outside the establishment. And so like it could maybe be a bias, but in all honesty, it could just be like people are just like, oh, this person's not serious because they're not part of the establishment. So like that's documented in the literature that that's an actual bias that people exhibit. So I think that more than likely it could be a portion of it coming from that. But there's more stuff. So I want to, this is over on Twitter. This is Andrew Yang. And what he's tweeted was, and this is the second line here, they've omitted, and this is in reference to MSNBC. He's responding to somebody. And he says, they've omitted me from their graphics 12 plus times. So what I just showed you has happened over 12 times, according to Andrew Yang. Called me John Yang on air and given me a fraction of the speaking time over 2 debates, despite my polling higher than the other candidates on stage. At some point, you have to call it. So he did that about 5 hours ago. And as you can see, it's got nearly 20,000 likes on it. 582 comments, and almost 3,000 reshares. 3,000 reshares is a lot of reshares. To put that in front of potential other audiences, it can expand really quickly. And then we have another interesting one here where that says, the whole time we have gotten stronger, this is actually bad for an MSNBC. That's just all I'm going to read on that one, but this is definitely bad for MSNBC, and we're going to get into what's trending on Twitter right now later on in a second. But more evidence, right? Like maybe these could just be mistakes, but this is the November debate that just happened. This is a Wikipedia page, and it just tracks the total number of minutes airtime per candidate. That's interesting. He also had the least amount of airtime. Elizabeth, with the top 3 or 4 people, almost the top 3 people or so almost had double the amount of time that Andrew Yang did. Interesting. So we come over to Twitter and check out what is trending right here. Boycott MSNBC, and it has 35,000 plus tweets. So there's, let's just click on this and go to the latest to see the volume of output. So this is, I just did this, right? 5 seconds ago, 6 seconds ago, 8 seconds ago, 9 seconds ago, 12 seconds, 15 seconds. There is a tremendous amount of energy that's happening around this hashtag right now. I use Twitter a fair amount, and I look at the latest posts on different hashtags quite often for my marketing on the YouTube channel. If you want to see that, let me know. And with a question down below, use the hashtag SOUL, and then I can find it to talk about these at the end of the video, like we're going to do in this video. But to have that many per second coming out, or every few seconds, is very good. Sometimes it happens with Andrew Yang, and sometimes, depending on if there's a spike with other people, the time of day, or what's happening, other, like Pete, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, it depends on what's like happening. Like Gabbard has been doing very well in there, but this is absolutely crazy, the amount of volume that's coming out around this. And I wanted to ask you a question. I think if you're watching this, first of all, you probably have a better awareness of what's actually happening versus like what the television, media, radio likes to tell it is happening for whatever reason. So given that that is my assumption of the people who are watching this content, I think that you may, and let me know in the comments, but may actually not really pay attention to the legacy media the more they are exposed for being biased in the data they're putting out, in the polls, with what they're saying. And is that accurate? Is that something that's happening as people are seeing more and more how fake and biased the news actually is, with so many different issues involved there? Are people not watching as much? That was my hypothesis, but look at the actual data. The debate that happened in June had 24 million viewers. This is just a Wikipedia page. Debate. Here, I'll scroll up to the top so we can take a look at this. This is the schedule of the debates and stuff. So we can see that the first 3 debates averaged, 18-ish million, 22 million, in that range. And it went from a lot of viewers, right, down to about half as much. It came back up a little bit, and we've just been trending down since then. And this stuff really didn't start to hit the fan until about 2-ish months ago. I started to learn about it, I would say. So the viewership is going down, which was that because people know that it's going to be biased as fuck, and they are coming to sources like this, not necessarily, you know what I mean, like YouTube and the internet, to find out what's actually happening. Because if it's coming through the lens of like the media, we can clearly see there's a bias, whether that is an intentional bias or a psychological bias, as we spoke about earlier today. I don't know. You guys can let me know down below in the comments. Use the hashtag STOLE so that I can find your comment. When I get into my analytics, I can search for comments, and then we can talk about them at the end of the video, because I think there's a tremendous amount of gold and insights in the comments that more people should really read some of the things that are going on, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. So the first comment we're going to jump into is from Lucid Thinking. I love that name, brother. I love that name. Methodology you developed is very interesting. Thank you. I find 2 possible weaknesses. Ooh, weaknesses. The internet is used by more young audience, so it's natural that Bernie, who leads among young people, will have more activity than others in the internet. Okay. So I wanted to touch on a couple different things. The proportion of the audience that's going to be voting in 2020, according to research from Pew Research, says that about 63-ish% of voters are going to be between the ages of 18 and 53. right? This is according to Pew Research. You can just Google it yourself. And 54 and older is going to represent the other portion of voting population. And where do people 54 and older spend more time, on the internet or offline? Generally speaking, offline. Where do people between 18 and 53 spend more time on average than the older group? Online. So I think that we're actually addressing the biggest addressable audience by looking at it on the internet versus like how polling data does it. And just the sample size is just retardedly different. Like, I mean, it's like one person's opinion versus like millions and millions of data points. It's not even like, but I do appreciate the comment so much. Let's look at number 2. Searches. This music just came on. It's really good. Searches does not necessarily indicate interest in the candidate. It can also indicate a viral story that drive people to look for it. For example, Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, yes, this is a good point. And I wanted to touch on something because this has come up about 4 or 5 times in the last like day or two in the comments that I think people don't understand what attention is and awareness is. Like, there's a difference between attention and awareness. They're very subtle, but when you have something pop, as you mentioned with Hillary and Gabbard, that is creating awareness for her, which leads to more attention for her, and it allows her to build momentum if she is able to capture that attention and do something useful with it. So that's how it works, right? But with attention, you can do whatever you want to do. You can get business results, you can impact people, you can create a cause, you can make money, you can do anything that you want to do with attention. You just have to get more of it, right? That's it. If you want to meet us like a certain person or group of people that are very well or powerful or whatever you want to think they are, you can do that through just gathering more attention to get your audience to put you in contact with these people. So I think it's just really underestimated how incredibly powerful the attention and the awareness is from things like that. And on the other hand, their biggest addressable audience is the group that's going to represent 63% of the voting population in 2020, and that's 18 to 53, which is online. I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. Again, use hashtag Stoll. We have an awesome comment here from the Mobcast podcast. Sorry, I butchered your name, brother. But I appreciate the comment here. Let's get into a great work once again, my guy. Thank you, brother. Always get excited when I see your new post. Tulsi and Mayor Pete had a blow up where she called him out on stage and he was trending for faking black support. So he's been in the news for the wrong reasons. And one of the he's referencing is because I don't actually pay attention to what any of the candidates say. I'm actually just really trying to look at the data to understand what the collective of America thinks and where their interest and awareness is, because then I know what's going to happen, right? Not what they're saying, right? If I know what the collective is saying and understanding what that is and where their attention is, then I know the answer, right? Not by listening to what they have to say. So that's how I view it, and he is giving me context to behind the data that I'm looking at in this comment. It's the same wave we saw with Kamala Harris, Warren Biden. The dust is about to settle. Tulsi was sick and was not able to post her daily videos, and her online platform took a hit for it, but now she's better and she will see what happens now. She's calling out Mayor Pete, who's supposed to kill Iowa and Indiana. It's going to be insane with Tulsi steals it. So this is super interesting. I didn't actually know any of that context, so that is interesting that she is sick. So if she's able to step up her game, let's play Conjecture Saturday, where Gabbard, where do we think that could go, given that we have context of reality? If she was sick and not putting an effort online, there's only a couple people who have had YouTube channels that have been consistently trying to actually garner attention. Bernie Sanders, and I might miss a couple because I'm not actually looking at the ranking of the YouTube channels that I do. So if you want to see that ranking, go back to the channel. But I'm not actually looking at it. But the people that come to mind are Bernie, Gabbard, and Elizabeth Warren, Andrew Yang, but more in the micro. And Elizabeth Warren's was kind of just like bullshit. She wasn't actually trying. It was just like it wasn't thoughtful. It was very, very secondhand. It was like it was on the back burner of a different stove that's in the basement or something. You know what I mean? Like just not even. It was like a fucking afterthought. Even though YouTube is the second biggest website on the planet, to just be an afterthought, it just seems so juvenile to me. But anyways, no, she can do whatever the fuck she wants. So if she was hurt and now she's able to really attack in there, I think that she will be able to benefit tremendously from the increased creative she's putting out. If she's actually doing this, this would help her a lot because there's that attention now. There's a large amount of awareness that's happening in the collective around her name. So if she can tell her more of her story while she's got that attention, she only has a chance of impacting people more. So when that awareness happens, right, we have those big spikes of awareness with Gabbard and Hillary. Then you want to go all in and tell as much of your story as possible and put out as much creative as you possibly put out, because there's going to be a little bit of overlap of that attention that's going to find you if this is you getting attention or any one of these candidates. And so there's going to be a trickle long tail effect on that. So anyways, I appreciate you guys so much for comments. Don't forget to jump in the description. Jump over to TikTok. TikTok is absolutely exploding. Same thing with Twitter. Both of those platforms have grown about 4x in the last 30 days. So if you want to see content on that, let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to use the hashtag STOLT so I can find it.